So I joined Live and Rent, I think it was round about January or February 2019, and I think it was just, or 2020 rather, it was just a combination of different things. I think after the election in December 2019 I was quite disillusioned and wanted to start sort of getting involved in politics in different ways and start sort of actually building power in the community rather than just going out with, putting like leaflets through doors for somebody else. I think as well as that, having moved out, we had like just a horrendous experience with our landlord. For the minute we got into our flat, it was like disgusting when we moved in. We get charged for lots of things that we shouldn't have done, and I think it was just wanting a wee bit of support with that.
So I'm pretty sure 2016, was that not when like Donald Trump and stuff were like elected as president? Yeah. So it was like a lot of stuff, like a lot of the right wing kind of, like pro capitalist sort of like voices were, like kind of really strong then, I think, or they were just beginning to become really strong then. And yeah, it's just like this kind of culture, like it's actually like seen to be a great thing if you're a landowner and if you own this many properties, and I don't know, I just didn't agree with that. But yeah, I think the likes of like the way the political kind of image was then, it was like reflecting into society as well, like a lot of those voices were coming out. So I think it was just as important for people who are opposed to that to like be even louder. And I think, something like Living Rent, a tenants union, is like quite loud in like the action they do and the campaigns they do and the unions they support.
I originally joined Live and Rent and I think it was May of 2020, and it was really for me a response to the pandemic. I was seeing Live and Rents pushing for eviction freezes. I knew people that were negotiating rent reductions with their landlord, and I just knew, it was a perilous time as ever for renters. So I joined in then, and I was kind of like an inactive member. I was reading the newsletters, etc. And then sort of summer last year, I went to started going to some of their events that they were doing, and then I got put in touch with the Partick branch. And just since then, I've been sort of involved with the Partick branch.
So I joined Living Rent back in, I think it was last summer, and it was during lockdown, and there was a lot of action in Govan Hill and their socials were quite active, and I saw this one post where about 80 Living Rent members showed up to a potential eviction, and I just thought that was like a really nice show of community solidarity. So yeah, I just thought this is great, and I had never heard of a tenants union, and being a tenant myself, I was like, it just makes perfect sense to join and help in any way I can. So yeah, that's just the story of how I joined.
Kind of similar, just kind of been following Living Rent and being a member since probably 2020, just because I supported everything they were doing and I was interested in what they were doing. And then I became a little bit involved when I lived in Finnieston in my third year of university, and then when I moved to Partick in September, I joined the Partick branch and went along to a member defence training and became a bit more involved.
I joined Live and Rent because of issues like homelessness and people being priced out of accommodation. Also the fact people have been threatened with eviction by unscrupulous landlords, and also when I moved into this flat, there was landlord across the road, or across from me, who would leave stuff out when people moving out, would leave mattresses out in the close, and I would say to them it's a fire hazard, ask them to get it moved. And I spoke to the tenant who was there, and he said he was charging too much rent, so he was in effect a rogue landlord.
I joined Live and Rent because, as I said before, I don't have a great deal of faith in parliamentary politics in Scotland and the UK. I feel like we have a choice of a series of capitalist liberal parties that offer differing versions of the same political vision. I think that our energy could be much better spent, channelled into community organisations like Living Rent, tenants unions, trade unions, where we can build power outside of that really restricted parliamentary framework where the vision and the ideas are ultimately constricted to capitalism, and most of the time the interests of capital are pretty well represented in parliamentary politics. We're building something on the outside as a tenants union that I suppose stands in direct opposition to the interests of capital, and for that reason it's really important. The interests of tenants are not well represented in the Scottish Parliament, the UK Parliament, I think something like a quarter of MSPs in the Scottish Parliament are landlords themselves, so that's a kind of an idea of the disparity and the competing interests. So yeah, I got involved because I felt it was a good way to be part of a genuine community empowerment project and hopefully achieve radical change when it comes to housing and social justice.
I guess I'd been involved in left groups over in Australia, and I kind of got a bit not sick of them, but just like I seen the stuff Live and Rent were doing, like direct actions, helping like tenants out, like in the front line sort of thing, and that was something that I wanted to get involved in, like more so than anything else. That appealed to me. The kind of within Live and Rent, there's something for everyone to do. Like, there's always a job to get done.
I guess when I first came, I was trying to look into different kind of groups and organization and things to get involved in. And one day I bumped into Sean Bailey, who was the first staff that the union ever had, and it was on some sort of homelessness shame in Glasgow kind of action, which is all about the problem around homelessness, etc. And then that's when I had my first conversation with him about a bit the situation in Glasgow, when he told me that, for example, there was no council housing in Glasgow, and I was a bit, because obviously I was new to the city, and I did not understand how could a city not have any council housing, and so that was a bit my first kind of encounter with someone from the union. And then a bit later, I think I just got I saw a poster or something like that for the launch of this kind of tenants union in Glasgow, and obviously I had no idea what a tenants union was. I was in very precarious situation myself with housing, because when you come here as a foreigner as well, it's a bit difficult when you don't have support network around. So I had I think my first year I had already moved 3 times because I was a private tenant, and so I was constantly forced to move. And so there was the launch of the branch, so I decided to go along and see a bit what this was about. And there was a Govern in 2017 at the Pearce Institute, and I went there, and then it was a room full of maybe 30 to 50 people, I think, at the time. And there was this women started talking about how they took action against the landlord and got repairs done, and then there was a wee film, and then there was talks about what we needed to organize tenants, and I was really that sounds really good, and I've been involved ever since that day.